Hey, you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen, and I'm doing a reading for Christmas Day. So I'm going to use this Nightmare Before Christmas deck, which is what I'm going to start with. I got a call from one of my friends in Minnesota today, in the middle of a blizzard. It was 70 degrees here yesterday, which is really wild. So all the snow melted, and it looks like we're not gonna have a white Christmas here after all, but they were having a blizzard, so it looks like they're getting one up there, and feeling pretty homesick for Minnesota these days. But anyways, she was telling me that I should look into the camera when I do these readings instead of wherever I've been looking. So I'm gonna try to make a point of doing that. Hi. And we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm doing the reading for Christmas Day. I'm doing a special, actually. I'm not really aspiring to be a tarot reader. I am doing this for fun. I am planning on going back to work next year at the first of shortly after the first of the year, so long story short, I don't usually do readings on this channel, and I'm doing a special for the holidays. There's a link down below if you're interested. It's just you can choose between a general, a love focused, or a career finance focused reading. It's $35. It's in the same format as this, and yeah, I'm just doing it for a limited time, and I'm just going to do a couple more of them for fun. Oh my gosh, just got an extra card that came out. Okay, wow, that's cool that those came out together. Okay, so at the bottom I got the 5 of Needles. So this is a card of conflict, and it's interesting because the 5 of Wands came out in yesterday's reading from a different deck. But this, you know, this is a card of conflict and strife, and maybe things changing and being resistance to it, but that's really interesting that that's coming out for the Christmas Day reading. The other cards that came out, we got the King of Candles, the King of Wands. We got the 7 of Needles, the 7 of Swords. We got the 9 of Candles. We got the 7 of Candles. And these two fell out together, and it's so cool how they kind of actually match the way that they look. But we got, it's Justice and the Lovers. So it's a really interesting combination, especially since they match. Okay, I gotta go. My mom's freaking out. Okay, so, yeah, sorry, I had to go deal with some stuff. But it's interesting because I had pre-pulled a couple cards from some of the other, from the other two decks, just because I'm trying to make the readings shorter, though I'm not sure how successful that is. But it's interesting because it's like slightly different views on this same situation. But this Nightmare Before Christmas deck, it's interesting because, it looks like a really dramatic reading. We've got all this conflict. The thing that this was reminding me of, these cards, is, I don't know if you've seen, there's a Bob Dylan video, a Christmas video, and I think it's for the song's called Must Be Santa, and it's hilarious because it's like this family Christmas, and all get together, and it's all joyous and happy, but then by the end of the video, everyone's drunk and like fighting, and it's just this huge drama, and that's kind of what I'm getting from the cards. So, we've got the King of Candles, so this is like a fiery, the King of Wands in the regular deck, so this is like someone who can like make things happen, like this manifester, but like in this, he's like this jack-o'-lantern. So you know, this is a fiery, passionate person, you know, maybe hot-headed, you know, I mean, look at his head, you know. And then we have this Seven of Needles, which came out in the last reading that I did, you know. So this is a card of deception, you know, which often is rooted in deceiving yourself. So it's somebody who's like maybe not being honest with themselves or with people around them, but it's just, you know, in this deck it's like sneaky behavior, but it's really just also about kind of living in a false reality, you know. Maybe you want it to be in this, you know, narrative that you're like putting out there, but that's not actually how things really are. So we've got this hot-headed person, we've got this false reality. I mean, that's like a recipe for some drama right there. And then we've got the Nine of Candles, you know. So in the traditional deck, it's the Wounded Warrior. So it's somebody who's like been beaten, bruised, like run through the ringer, you know, and they've been through it, but they're not ready to give up, you know. They're still hanging on. But, you know, like the thing that just came to me is like Jesus on the cross, you know. We're talking about Christmas here, you know. So it's just like we've got this person who's just been run through the ringer. We've got this hot-headed person living in a delusional reality. And then the next card we have is the Seven of Wands, which is a card of like standing your ground, defending your values, you know, and just like sticking up for yourself, you know. So like this is some major, ow, I hurt myself, clashing, you know, like some fiery clashing, you know. And then we have we have the Lovers, you know. So this can be like a deep love relationship. This can also be like reconciling two halves of, you know, a whole. And we have Justice. So maybe there's been an injustice involving like a deep connection. It could be in your family. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a relationship. I mean, just because we're talking Christmas here. But whatever this situation is, it's involving a deep relationship, and there's like justice being served, you know. And so, I mean, perhaps it has to do with like this deception around this hot-headed person. Like maybe this person's been insisting on a certain outcome, and that outcome isn't in alignment with reality, and has been like putting the rest of their family through all this drama. And like finally everyone's just like had it, and they're just like, we're gonna stand our ground, we're bringing justice to the situation. And like the next thing you know, like there's plates being thrown, you know, like it's pretty dramatic. So there's that. That's the nightmare before Christmas, you know. So I'm gonna go to the Mystical Shaman next, and it's a little bit of a nicer take on things. But you know, at the bottom we have the Holy Mountain, which, I mean, this kind of reminds me of the Hermit card in the traditional deck. But this, you know, the mountain represents a spiritual quest, and it's sort of like when you're in a situation and you're like, why, you know, like it doesn't make sense. It's like, why do I have to be put through this, you know? And this is kind of inviting you to like go on a spiritual quest, you know, and try to get like a new perspective on things, or figure out like the lesson that you're supposed to learn from whatever this challenge is, you know, and like that being the best perspective or the best approach for whatever the situation is. So, you know, taking a spiritual path, like, which I think is good. That's good advice, especially if you're dealing with Mr. like hot-headed jack-o'-lantern or whatever. You know, okay, so then we have Taming the Wind. We have Fire again, you know, we've got the Ancient Ones. We've got the Rattle, and we have the Sun. So, you know, this speaks to some sort of challenging situation, but kind of taking the high road. The Taming the Wind card, like, this is the, like, Forrest Gump card, you know? So it's like Forrest had this really deep connection with his mom, and whenever Forrest was at sort of like an impasse in life, like, this little feather would, like, fall from the sky and would, like, let him know, you know, like, what his path was, you know? And so, like, this card kind of speaks to that kind of circumstance. And it's really interesting because on the week when my father was passing away, like, this is definitely a story that came up, you know, and like I've been experiencing that. Like, I feel like I've been getting all this guidance from my father from the other side, you know, not necessarily as feathers, but in other ways. And like, I've gotten lots of messages. And it's interesting because in the last week, I've been getting just like deluged with these messages, and it's I feel like I've been getting some really wise counsel, you know. Okay, so the next card we have is fire. So like transformation, like something is changing, you know. When things go through the fire, you know, like wood turns into ash, water turns into air, you know, like things aren't going to be the same, you know. But this also speaks to the phoenix, you know, like rising from the ashes, like the firebird that kind of is risen, you know. Then we have the ancient ones, which again, this speaks to getting guidance from the other realms, you know. And the ancient ones are specific to like people who've like kind of walked the earth and then gone to the other side, and getting specific guidance from them, you know. So it's interesting that both of these cards came up, especially in the context of, you know, what I was talking about. And then we got the rattle. So I mean, it's not so much that it's like explicitly saying it here, but like I'm definitely getting this karma that's coming through on this. Like the rattle speaks to calling in help from the spiritual realm, you know. And it's like co-creating with spirit, you know. But it's like not to be taken lightly, because it's just like spirit is going to sort of pass judgment in alignment with the truth, you know. So it's just like you got to be, you know, it's like they say, be careful what you wish for, you know, because if you're not in alignment with the truth, like it can be like a harsh, painful lesson, you know. So it's just like when you call in this power, the caution is to know that you're in alignment with the highest good. Otherwise, like things might play out like in a way that you're not expecting, you know. So that's like the cautionary message with that card. But then we also have the sun, you know. So this is a card where it's just like it's time to show up and be counted. Like it's not time to like hide in the corner. Like this is time to show up and be counted. And like that falls right under this justice, you know. So it's just like, you know, if you've been like maybe like, it's interesting because I haven't gotten to this card, but like oppression is underneath on this same row. It's like if you've been like sort of like oppressed under this unjust situation, like now is the time to like stand your ground. Like that's kind of what these cards are saying, you know. So I'm gonna go to Urban Tarot. And on the bottom I got the High Priestess. And the message with the High Priestess in this deck in particular, like she's taking a bath, she's got her candles going, and it's talking about non-action being a form of action, you know, where, and I think the message with that is kind of like, it's similar to the, it's the Witness in the Mystical Shaman deck, and it's talking about, you know, like when you've kind of cleared up your like inner channels and your inner obstructions and your inner obstacles, like you can just allow, you know, and watch things unfold. And like that being a powerful form of action, even though it's non-action. And so that's kind of this message of, You know, like, it looks like this conflict is going to go down, you know? So it's just sort of like, maybe whatever this, I mean, this came up yesterday, and I was talking about this truth coming out with regard to this deceptive situation. So it's like, whether you confront this person, this hot-headed jack-o'-lantern, about it or not, like, the truth is going to come out either way. So it's just sort of like, maybe the best approach is a non-approach and allow things to unfold in the way that they're meant to, and kind of get out of the fray, you know. Okay, so then when I go to the cards from the Urban Tarot, again, it kind of, even though we don't have any cards specific to karma, it speaks to like a karmic situation, you know. And it's interesting because we've got the Justice. So we've got these two characters. We've got this Knight of Discs, which is like the Knight of Pentacles in the traditional deck, which in this deck is the Gourmet Chef. So this is somebody who, like, is pretty, like, you know, working in tangible reality, towards tangible outcomes, you know. I mean, people who work in the restaurant business, and I can speak to this because I've worked in the restaurant business for, you know, 30 years or whatever, are pretty down to earth, you know, for the most part, and usually have to, like, kind of soldier through some crazy drama, you know, in order to get their job done. So they're pretty, like, salt of the earth, you know. So we've got this guy, and we have underneath him, we have Prudence, the 8 of Pentacles. So this is someone who's making a dedicated, you know, we've got someone, it's like a watchmaker or something. They're making a dedicated effort towards just getting something done, you know, like they're just working, you know. And then we've got this other character right next to him, which he's been coming up in the readings recently. Both of these. So we've got the Seducer, you know. So this is a person who deals in fantasy and is kind of like selling fantasies, you know. Like, this person is winning favor by telling people what they want to hear and sort of being there to, like, catch the outcome, you know. And so it's interesting because underneath him we have the Prince of Discs, which this guy's been coming up a lot lately too, and he's the day trader. And, like, his story is that, like, he's not necessarily malevolent, but, like, he's kind of lost sight of what's important in the sense that he's, like, totally motivated by money. So he's like the opposite of this guy. Like, he's not hard at work, like, making some sort of tangible outcome. Like, this guy makes money on, like, you know, how stocks go up and down, you know, and, like, selling this fantasy, you know. So it's just sort of like, we've got these two very different characters. We've got this person who's super focused on material focused, and they're not necessarily going for a tangible outcome, you know. They're more like playing on, like, people's emotions, you know, and the up and down nature of that, you know. So it's like two super different characters, and it's like almost suggests that these people are at odds, you know. But this person is getting this guidance, you know. The feather is above them. And then this person, and it's interesting how the colors again match with these, is right under this transformation. So, like, there's this big fire, you know, drama, you know, like, this suggests that this person's kind of got some drama, whereas this person is getting some sort of guidance, but again, matching. So cool. So then what's interesting is on the next row we have Satiety, the 10 of Cups, which is total fulfillment, and it's right on top of this star. And it's interesting because this star has been coming up recently a lot too, and I'll have to find the reading where this came up, but I was talking about, you know, like, during the eclipse season, and like a change happening for this person, and with this card having, like, almost like a holiday feel to it with this star in the background, and, like, this, you know. And I said in the reading, I'm like, so maybe this you know, situation is going to come to fruition for this person during the holidays. So I think it's interesting that this card comes up on the Christmas Day reading, you know. But we have this person, you know, a wish coming true and some sort of fulfillment happening. And this is like being guided by some ancestor, you know. So it's like, and this is right under this Wounded Warrior card. So like this speaks to somebody who's been sort of oppressed under some sort of situation, you know, and they're kind of being like, it doesn't, you know, the card doesn't say it explicitly, but like it kind of infers some sort of like karmic comeuppance, you know. And then we have this rattle, you know, which again, you know, this is co-creating with the universe, but like the universe sort of like passing judgment on whatever's in alignment with the highest good, you know. And underneath that we have strength, and we have the Chariot. So seizing the reins on a situation, and that requiring strength. And the card from this deck is the Seven of Wands, which is the card of standing your ground and defending your truth, you know. So it's just sort of like, whatever this situation is that judgment is happening for, like, it's going to require, like, strength, and we're going to have to, like, take control of this situation. So, you know, clearly, this isn't going to be, like, something that's decided in, like, a very easy way. You know, and then we have this card of like standing up and being counted. We have this card of some sort of deep, you know, connection and justice being served on whatever this situation is. And it's interesting because we have the Four of Pentacles, which in this deck is power, and it's on top of the Ten of Wands, which is in this deck is oppression. And it's interesting because both of these kind of speak to power at sort of like different stages of trajectory. I mean, this kind of speaks to like power that's like lost its way and has gotten kind of belligerent and is sort of corrupt at this point, you know. And then, but it's being overcome by this, in this deck, this is like new power where like somebody's just kind of like gotten their footing and are starting to like make money and build stability and can start to give back, you know. So it's like this is like sort of like newly acquired power, and it's sort of like now kind of overcoming whatever this oppressive situation is, which is interesting because last month they'll read, you know, all the readings were about overcoming this oppressive situation, and in this month's monthly reading was talking about having to break the chain on some sort of maybe familial connection in order to break free of this. And it's interesting that that all falls under this, you know, there's some relationship that's justice is being served on whatever this situation, and that is what's sort of like recalibrating this power dynamic, you know. So very, very interesting. It looks like it's going to be a super dramatic holiday, you know. Okay, I'm going to go to Starseed Oracle, and I'm going to pick one card to end this reading. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a big Christmas, and I hope, yeah, you should go back and watch that video from Must Be Santa by Bob Dylan. I don't know if I can link that stuff in these, but I'll put a link to it down below because it's a pretty funny video. So yeah, might be some holiday family drama. Okay, so I got, oh wow, I've never gotten this card before. Cracked Open, Rock Bottom, Surrender to the Alchemy of Life. So yeah, this speaks to a pretty dramatic situation like coming to a head for Christmas this year. And then on the other deck we have You Got the Love, Hydarian energy, codependency, boundaries. So yeah, like again, this speaks to some sort of situation, and maybe a familial situation, given that it's the holidays, but having to draw boundaries maybe on some sort of unjustified, oppressive situation, and hitting rock bottom with whatever this situation is. It's interesting that these cards match too, and I've never gotten these cards before. So, good luck with all of this. It looks pretty huge, and I hope it goes well. I hope it goes well for me too. And we'll check in after Christmas. Merry Christmas.